people. Welcome to another edition of Politrip here on the Got What You Need Network. Of course, I'm your host, Sky. Let's be sure that we're supporting the other broadcasts on this network, the Black Male Podcast, Talking with E, Life and Love, as well as the Encourage and Inspire podcast. And we have some other like one-of-ones, different type of programming on the network as well. So be sure to check that out. Make sure you subscribe, and that way you get reminders each time that we post something new. All right. So very busy. A lot of stuff going on since the last time we spoke. So while the government was closed, we were hoping that the Democrats would hold out and get some concessions, since the government shutdown looked to be framed as a Republican issue, being that they control the House, the Senate, and the White House. I think it went on for about 8 weeks, and then it was reports that Chuck Schumer had instructed some of the more moderate members of the Senate to go ahead and make a deal with the Republicans to open the government back up. From the immediate response, it just looked like the Democrats had just wasted everyone's time if they were just going to reopen the government without any real concessions from the Republicans. And it was starting to produce a little infighting. But then the Epstein estate released some documents to the Oversight Committee, and I believe the Democrats from the Oversight Committee, and I don't know if it was the entire committee, so I'm just going to say the Democrats from the Oversight Committee went through them and decided to release some to the public. And through those releases, it put the spotlight right back on the Epstein files, and it really turned up the pressure for the vote for the discharge petition, and then the vote in the Senate. And the vote in the House was, I believe, 427-1, something like that. And it was unanimous in the Senate. So it could have overrode a presidential veto, but he signed. The one thing that's very disturbing is how many people are coming out and trying to figure out a way to make an excuse for pedophilia. And you even had Ted Cruz, like, on the Senate floor say that, can we stop attacking pedophiles? He said that. That's a quote. It was along the lines of, other things we can stop calling people. But the last thing he said was, could we stop calling people pedophiles? Dean Winters, young podcaster, YouTuber, doing amazing things for the progressive movement. He had a caller into one of his broadcasts who basically wanted Dean to explain to him what was wrong with being a pedophile. I mean, and these aren't isolated cases. Like, we are literally seeing Megyn Kelly tried to even explain like things that like we were dumb, like, oh, there's a difference between a guy touching a 15-year-old and a 5-year-old, and we're like, yeah, but they're both wrong. Like, it was just so much of people twisting themselves into pretzels, pretty much trying to make this thing okay because they don't want it to take down Donald J. Trump. And that is crazy to me. And there's probably some other powerful people that they don't want to go down either. But that is crazy to me. Like, let's be clear. They ran on this. They talked about it. Oh, we're going to expose this left-wing pedophilia ring. You remember kids in the basement of the pizza parlor that didn't even have a basement, and everybody ran with that story because it was against Hillary. But now we have actual documents naming Donald Trump. Stansberry, I believe that is her name, out of New Mexico, and I don't want to misquote this, so I want to make sure that I get the name right. But she said she read the Stansfield, excuse me, here we go. No, Lisa Stansfield, not the singer. Stansberry, I believe it is. Stansberry. And she was basically saying that she's been reading through the files, her and her staff, and she read a part in which the president is being accused of spending time and having sex with a 13-year-old girl. And she didn't, stutter when she said it. She said that this is what's in the files. And the fact that the country hasn't stopped to get to the bottom of this is amazing to me. And for people listening, because I do have people on the right who support the broadcast, when you say, what about the Democrats? I say, what about them? But I also say, if you really think that there was any prominent Democrat that anybody cared about that was in there, and to think that those documents wouldn't have already been leaked or whatever, you're just in denial to yourself because you know what the truth is. If there was anyone on the left, the middle, used to be on the right but leaning towards the left, anybody that they could use to deflect and make it more about them than Donald J. Trump, they would have done it already. And that just lets me know. And every day I'm waiting for like some Clinton thing to come out or some big, what's the guy? George Soros type stuff to go on. And nothing. It just keeps being more Republican men. They said Ken Starr is in there. And if you don't remember Ken Starr, he was the independent counsel for the Monica Lewinsky thing with Bill Clinton. You had Brett Kavanaugh, they said, is in the files or what have you. And that Ken Starr was an attorney for Epstein, and Kavanaugh was his clerk. See where all this is going? So I know I've made predictions in the past, and some of them have been wrong. I don't think Donald Trump can survive this. There is too much graphic information available to the public, and the files haven't even been released yet. These are just documents that the family is releasing in order to force the release of the entire files. Many people are also upset that Ghislaine Maxwell was moved from a maximum security prison in which people who commit crimes that she was found guilty of are supposed to be in, to some cushy country club setting in Texas that's more of a detention center, which is illegal for somebody who's committed the crime that Miss Maxwell has to even be there. But she was moved because she has the dirt on Donald Trump. Now that all the things are coming out and the assistant U.S. Attorney General Todd Blanche has been exposed for not asking her any real questions and really just going down there to get hey, I didn't see Donald Trump do anything wrong from her in exchange for her being moved. So now he's under a lot of pressure because they're like, what did you go down? First of all, you shouldn't have been there. The people who tried the case should have been there. People with knowledge of the case should have been there. But all of this stuff is not making any sense. And shout out to Congressman Raskin for getting with a whistleblower and bringing more attention to that case. Miss Maxwell should actually be worried because the more that comes out, the less leverage she has from a blackmail standpoint, and that might, blow her plan up, and then she goes back to the appropriate housing for the crime that she committed. I'm just saying. But we'll see. Riley Gaines, not a household name, but you probably know her from the poster girl for the anti-trans athlete movement. Now, imagine you're an athlete and you compete in a competition and you end up in 5th place. Nothing to write home about. You don't usually even get an award, a medal, a certificate, or anything, but you just happen to be tied with a trans girl. And because that trans girl was able to compete and tie with you, the whole thing was that you competed against a guy. And that's why you aren't a champion, which is very disingenuous from her. And even going into college, even though at 15, let's be clear, I think she was like a U.S. Olympic qualifier, or whatever. But when she visited the University of Kentucky on a college visit, they were like, you're all right, you can come on as a walk-on or whatever, but they weren't ready to offer her a scholarship. And to her credit, she was like, hey, words like that aren't going to discourage me. It's going to make me a better swimmer, a better, better competitor, and all of that kind of stuff, a better athlete, or what have you. But I guess it was 3 years ago in 2022, she saw this trans thing as something lucrative and totally got on board with it, and basically went from mediocre to less than average athlete to now multi-millionaire, with a husband and a child, I believe. And recently Pablo Torre and Mother Jones discovered that she was paid for all of this. They've done interviews, and mind you, they asked her to comment on the story, and she didn't respond. But they spoke to former teammates of hers who were very surprised that this former never Trumper was speaking out the way she was against, trans athletes and how she's become this total MAGA person. And what they found was Betsy DeVos, the former Department of Education Secretary under the first Trump term, under her group, it was paying her $25,000 per appearance to speak out against trans women competing in sports or whatever. And let's be clear, there are a lot of people who aren't real vocal about it, who also have questions about trans women competing against, birth women that were biological women. I guess that's the term. If it's not, y'all know where I'm going with this. So this was something to where even those who aren't far to the right will make statements, she shouldn't have to compete against a guy and all this kind of stuff. My thing is, you can have your code or whatever, but when everything that you supposedly is about changes because the other side is more lucrative and you make a living off of that, that just shows the type of fraud that you are. And shout out to Pablo Torre, who, at least he's not just going after black athletes or whatever. And I'm not making this a black or white thing. It just seemed like the Kawhi Leonard story with the Clippers, to me, should have been more about the Clippers circumventing the salary cap, and it was more about trying to leak what Kawhi Leonard was asking for, or the fact that he got endorsement deal, or where he didn't really have to do anything for the money or whatever. And that was the problem I had with that, is that it should have been more about the Clippers and Ballmer trying to circumvent the salary cap versus Kawhi trying to get more money, as any athlete would do. So, like I said, great work with Pablo Torre in conjunction with Mother Jones. And if any other follow-up, or if Ms. Gaines does respond, we'll speak on that on a future episode. In some past episodes, and I believe it was probably 1 or 2 episodes ago, I was talking about these BS indictments against former Attorney General James Comey and current New York State Attorney General Letitia James in regards to some mortgage fraud. First of all, the former head of housing or whatever in the Trump administration, Bill Pulte, he has been relieved of his position, and he, along with I don't know the other gentleman's name. I apologize for even bringing up the other gentleman's name without having it on the tip of my tongue. But Bill Pulte is now facing charges of illegally accessing financial records in order to try to bring charges against the two, Comey and James. That's not even like the bombshell, because Pulte shouldn't have even been in that position in the first place. He's just a guy with a lot of money that paid Donald Trump, and Donald Trump knew that he would go after the people that I just named, and that's why he got the job. So this ain't even about him. This is about Lindsay Hannigan and Pam Bondi lying to the grand jury, and basically lying to the judge and telling the judge that the full grand jury brought back indictments on all 3 charges when they actually didn't bring back the indictments, and because Trump pressured them into charging anyway, Pam Bondi went to the magistrate and then went to the foreman of the grand jury and got the okay, which is illegal. Let's just be clear, which is highly illegal, and that's how they got the faulty indictment. Now they're trying to go back and trying to clean it up, and it's not going to work. And I would say by the time the next episode drops, we will find out that Comey, the case against Comey was dropped, and I'm pretty sure Comey is going to sue the Department of Justice for malicious prosecution. And being that there are similar cases, if Comey's case gets thrown out, Letitia James' case is going to get thrown out as well. And that's not even like the big part of it. The worst part of it is that Hannigan is likely going to be charged, like, with a felony for, lying to the grand jury or lying on the grand jury. But however you word it, her and Pam Bondi are in heavy legal peril right now. And the case being thrown out should be the least of their worries. I get it. Once they're charged and convicted or whatever, since it's going to be a federal charge, they're more than likely going to get a pardon. But we don't know what the power of Donald J. Trump will be once he's away. Like, we don't know where these charges are going to go. And the Epstein thing is just part of it. He's not popular with trade. He's not popular with tariffs. He's not popular with grocery prices. He's not popular because people are losing their health care. So it's a lot of things going on. And I don't know what type of deal that he's going to be able to negotiate that will allow him to still have this unlimited pardon power. So those who are doing crime or doing criminal-like things for the president right now might want to be careful. I don't see a situation into which he is jailed, but I do see a situation into which the negotiation for him not to be, for the DOJ not to go after him for all the things he's done, is for him to give up some of his post-presidential power. And I guarantee you that pardon pen will be heavily, heavily limited, or it'll be taken away altogether. So I'm just saying, y'all better be careful when it comes to that, because you could be sitting out there expecting relief and expecting a pardon, and turn around and he won't be able to, or he might decide that you weren't as loyal as he needed you to be, so he's not going to do it. All right, we have a story out of New Jersey, and when it ran, and it didn't get a lot of a lot of publicity, and I'm glad it didn't. But Natalie Green, she is a New Jersey woman who previously worked for Congressman Jeff Van Drew, and she's accused of faking a political attack on herself. So she is of Ocean City, New Jersey. Natalie Green was charged with conspiracy to convey false statements and hoaxes and making false statements to federal law enforcement. This is like the Jussie Smollett thing all over again. So on July 23rd, a woman, now we know it's Miss Green, she called 911, and she claimed that she had been attacked by 3 men while they were walking on a trail at a nature preserve in Egg Harbor Township. Google history of Egg Harbor Township, one of the mainstays of the Ku Klux Klan back in the 1920s or whatever. And I'm just putting that there, for context or whatever. She claimed the men called Green out by name and referenced her employment with a federal official. Later identified as Jeff Van Drew, who represents New Jersey's 2nd Congressional District. When the police arrived at the scene, they found Green on the ground in a wooded area near the trail with her hands and feet bound together with black zip ties. Green's shirt was pulled over her head and was also tied with a zip tie. I'm laughing because this shit is fake, all right? I'm not laughing at that. Investigators said Green also had several lacerations on her face, neck, upper chest, and shoulder. According to officials, police also said the words Trump whore were written on her stomach, while a message claiming that Van Drew is a racist was written on her back. Green told police that at least one of the men who allegedly attacked her had a gun and threatened to shoot her. Investigators said she also claimed at least one of the alleged attackers held her down, restrained her, cutting her, and writing on her body. Green received medical treatment for the lacerations and once again described the alleged attack to law enforcement, including FBI agent a few days later. During the investigation, however, officials determined Green had lied about the attack. Instead, Green paid a body modification scarification artist. Wow, I've never seen that word before in my life. Artist to cut the lacerations on her neck, chest, and shoulder based on a design that she provided, according to investigators. Police also recovered black zip ties in her car on the night of the alleged attack, or similar to the black zip ties that had been used to bind her arms and feet. Also said that 2 days before the alleged attack, the cell phone of Green's co-conspirator had been used to search zip ties near me. Green appeared in federal court recently, and she was released on a $200,000 unsecured bond with additional conditions. I bring this up just to say, like, it's always people accusing people of making things up, or everything's not a conspiracy, or, oh my God, the black people playing the race card or whatever. And we're not putting enough attention to this victimhood thing that so many people on the right want to be. Like, I literally see people walk up to folks in stores and bother them and provoke them, and then as soon as they get attacked, they scream all to hell. I literally saw a video where a lady was walking with her 2 children, saw a guy, and this ain't even a color thing, because I believe the guy driving the pickup truck was white as well. And he pulled up into his driveway and was like, "Can I help you with something?" And the lady ran around the house and screamed, "Oh my God, he's chasing us." And he was going to his house. So, like, we gotta stop this. I'm gonna close. There's a story out of Boston, Jennifer Morrison. She was residing in the Boston Arms apartments, appear to be upscale apartments in Boston, for 6 years. She noticed that a black gentleman was using a key to enter an apartment, his apartment. She walks up to him. "Hey, what are you doing? You look suspicious." He says, "Why? Because I'm black?" She says, "Well, yeah." He says, I live here. I just moved in a couple of weeks ago or a month ago, whatever he did. She mumbled, walked away. "You still look suspicious." Called the police. The police arrive. She finds out that he is the new chief of the Boston Police Department. And obviously once they watched the video, they realized he had did nothing wrong, and he was going into his apartment. She has been evicted, and a judgment of about $120,000 was judged against her for profiling and just being a racist piece of shit. And I'm glad that she lost her job. I'm glad she lost a place to stay, and I'm glad that she's been publicly shamed. More of this needs to happen. And not for nothing, right? People that own apartment complexes and buildings, you have to do a better job of reeling in residents who think they own more than what they pay for. Like, I see so many times black kids sitting in the apartment lobby, reading or studying or waiting on his mom or something like that, and someone has to come over and ask him what he's doing, and not in a way of let me check on this child, in a way of why are you here? I don't like you and I don't want you here. And I believe that the management has to do a better job when they're taking these people's applications, because it's become such a big thing to be like, hey, you have an issue with a fellow resident, you are to bring that to us. And stop this confrontation type thing. And the reason I'm saying that is because you're not going to tell me that's the first time that happened. She thought she was above the law, and she was bigger than just the space that she paid for and was outlined in her lease. And not only did it cost her her ability to make money in the job she had and the ability to have somewhere to stay because she was kicked out of these luxury apartments, but then she also had a 6-figure judgment against her just for being racist. And that's gotta suck. But look, man, I want to thank y'all for y'all time. I appreciate all the support. I love how everybody's talking about the podcast and sharing the podcast, and I love seeing our growth. Let's keep it going, man. And until next time, y'all be well. Peace.